You are 26. You have 18,000 in debt and a salary that covers the minimum payments and almost nothing else. Not a crisis. That is the specific cruelty of it. Not a crisis which would force a decision. Not an emergency which would demand immediate action. Just a number. Sitting on a statement you open less often than you should. In an account you avoid thinking about between payments. Attached to a monthly obligation that has become so normal, you have almost stopped noticing it. Almost. It is there every morning, low and steady. The financial version of a sound you have learned to hear around. But that is still always there. Debt does not arrive like a disaster. Disasters are sudden. Disasters demand response. Disasters have a before and an after you can point to. Debt arrives like a solution. A reasonable, often genuinely necessary solution to a specific problem that existed at a specific moment. A car you needed to get to a job that paid more than you could earn without it. A degree that was supposed to close a gap the labor market had opened beneath you. A credit card for the 3 months when the salary did not quite reach the end of the month. Each of these decisions made sense. Most of them were probably correct, given the information available at the time. The trap was never in the individual decision. The trap is in what happens when the decisions accumulate, when they begin compounding against you, the same way investments compound for you, but silently and in the wrong direction. This is what that compounding looks like at every level. Level 1, 0 to 5,000 in debt, it feels manageable because it is manageable. That is exactly why it does not get managed. You have 3,200 on a credit card at 22% interest. The minimum payment is $64 a month. You pay it every month, automatically, without thinking about it, because automatic payments are how responsible adults handle financial obligations. This feels correct. It is not correct. At the minimum payment, your 3,200 will take 11 years to clear. By the time you pay it off, you will have paid nearly 5,000 in interest, more than 50% above the original balance, for purchases that no longer exist. The phone you bought, the flights you took, a series of ordinary expenses that felt reasonable at the time, and now exist only as a debt obligation that will outlast the memory of what you bought. You are not managing the debt. You are renting it. Every month you pay to continue carrying something that is not growing, not building, not becoming anything. It is simply remaining, a permanent fixture in your finances that costs money to maintain and produces nothing in return. The minimum payment is the most expensive financial habit most people have. It does not feel expensive because the amount is small. It is expensive because the duration is long and the cost is invisible until you do the arithmetic. Level 2, 5,000 to 20,000 in debt. You moved apartments, bought a car on finance, and took a personal loan to cover a gap between jobs. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that would read as reckless in the story of your life. Just the normal, incremental infrastructure of an adult life, assembled across several years. Each piece justified. Each payment manageable at the time it was agreed to. Your take-home is $2,800 a month. Your fixed debt payments, the credit card minimum, the car finance, the loan repayment, total $620. That number does not feel catastrophic. It is just over 22% of your take-home income, and 22% is a number that financial advisors sometimes cite as a reasonable debt-to-income ratio. What the ratio does not capture is this. $620 is gone before you make a single decision. Before rent, before food, before utilities, before transport, before any of the ordinary costs of being alive in a city. And what remains after all of those costs is an amount so thin that saving anything from it requires a discipline that is genuinely difficult to maintain indefinitely. This is not a character flaw. This is arithmetic. And the arithmetic says, at this debt level, with this income, the margin available for building anything is structurally close to zero. This is the reason you have not saved anything in 3 years. Not because you were careless, because the numbers did not leave room. Level 3, 20,000 to 50,000 in debt. The numbers are larger now, but the psychology is identical. You have adapted. The human capacity for adaptation is remarkable. It is one of the most useful things about being human. And in this context, it is part of what makes debt so dangerous. You are 32. You earn more than you ever have. Your salary has grown by almost 40% since you were 26. And yet, your financial freedom, your actual ability to make choices that are not constrained by monthly obligations, is less than it was at 24, when you had almost nothing in either direction. The debt structure has grown with the income. A student loan that felt like a future investment when you signed it. A car payment that made sense given what the car cost you compared to using services, a personal loan you took to consolidate the credit card that had grown beyond comfortable management. The consolidation felt like progress. One payment instead of several, a lower rate, a fresh start. It was not a fresh start. It was a restructuring of existing obligations into a form that was easier to carry, which is a different thing from resolving them. The amount owed did not decrease. The obligation did not end. It simply became quieter. This is the level where most people begin to understand that income and wealth are not the same thing. It is also, unfortunately, the level where most people stop asking questions because the debt is manageable, and manageable feels like fine, and fine is a condition most people stop trying to improve. Level 4, 50,000 to 150,000 in debt. The debt now has gravity. You can feel it as a structural force in your life, not just a line on a statement. A mortgage you stretched slightly beyond comfortable because the market moved and the alternative was waiting indefinitely. Business debt from a venture that did not scale the way the projections suggested it would. A second car because the logistics of one car between two schedules stopped working. School fees for your child in a school you chose carefully and feel it is not the right moment to disrupt. Financed through a revolving line of credit you told yourself was temporary when you opened it. You earn $85,000 a year. By almost any measure, you are doing well, and you have almost nothing saved outside the equity in the property, which you cannot access without selling something you are not ready to sell. Here is what $85,000 with this debt structure actually means in practice. You cannot leave your job without a plan that accounts for every one of these obligations. You cannot take a risk on something with uncertain income because the payments will not absorb the uncertainty with you. You cannot say no to work you find unrewarding or clients you find difficult because the financial pressure that would follow is pressure you have no buffer to absorb. The debt is no longer something you have. It has become something you work for. The distinction is not dramatic. It is not something that appears in a single conversation or a single moment of realization. It simply becomes, gradually and then unmistakably, the correct description of what your working life is organized around. Level 5, 150,000 and above in debt. At this level, the numbers are large enough to feel abstract and personal enough to never stop feeling personal. These two things exist simultaneously in a way that is genuinely difficult to describe to one who has not experienced it. You rarely discuss it, not from shame, though the shame is present, from exhaustion. The management of this amount of debt is a second job with no end date, no completion milestone, no moment when you finish the task and set down the tools. Negotiating rates at renewal, restructuring when better options become available, timing large payments against the months when income is highest, tracking every obligation across multiple institutions, each with its own rate, its own cycle, its own small print. People around you see a successful professional. The external markers of your life, the house, the car, the holidays, the clothes, the school your children attend, read as evidence of financial health. They are in part the architecture of the debt. The lifestyle and the obligation are inseparable, which means dismantling one requires dismantling the other, and the social cost of that dismantling is real enough that most people at this level find ways to continue rather than ways to stop. You are intelligent, you are educated, you work hard, and you are genuinely good at what you do. And the best hours of your professional life are spent not building something, not accumulating something, not moving towards something, but maintaining a structure of obligations, keeping it standing, keeping it stable, making sure nothing tips over. That is the work. And it is exhausting in a way that has nothing to do with the hours. The trap is not the debt. The debt is a consequence. The trap is the story. Every level of debt comes with a story that makes it tolerable, a narrative that converts an obligation into either an investment, a temporary condition, or simply the normal cost of a life being lived at an appropriate level. The mortgage is an investment in property that will appreciate. Sometimes true, not always. And the interest paid over 30 years on a property bought slightly beyond comfortable is still a cost, regardless of the appreciation. Everyone has debt. True, statistically. Also irrelevant to your specific situation and your specific costs, and the specific ways your specific obligations are shaping your specific decisions. I will deal with it properly when I earn more. This one is particularly durable because it is structurally optimistic. It locates the solution in the future, which means it never needs to be found in the present. And it ignores the consistent evidence that more income, without deliberate intervention, produces more debt at a higher level rather than less debt at any level. The interest rate is not that high, individually perhaps, aggregated across multiple obligations at various rates, compounded over years, combined with the opportunity cost of not having that that capital invested elsewhere, the interest rate is almost always higher than it feels when you are looking at a single statement. These stories are not lies. They contain real truth. That is what makes them so effective at keeping you still. A complete lie is easy to identify and discard. A partial truth that makes an uncomfortable situation feel manageable is something you can live with indefinitely. The actual cost of debt is never the interest rate alone. It is the interest rate plus the cost of every decision you could not make because the obligation was there. Every risk you could not take. Every opportunity that required flexibility you did not have. Every version of your working life that was not available to you because the payments would not wait. Debt does not just cost money. It costs options. And options, the ability to choose your work, your risk, your pace, your direction, are, once you understand what they are actually worth, the most expensive thing debt takes from you. The philosophical close. There is a version of your life where debt was exactly what it was supposed to be: a bridge, a temporary structure. Engineered for a specific gap, designed to carry weight for a defined period, and then be dismantled once its purpose was served. A tool, used deliberately, put down when the job was done. And there is a version, the one most people are actually living, where the bridge became the road, where the temporary became so durable it stopped feeling temporary, where the structure built to cross a gap quietly became the landscape itself, and the original gap, the one the debt was meant to bridge, was never fully reached. Most people do not choose the second version. They arrive at it gradually. The debt came quietly. The adaptation was almost automatic. The life built around it felt normal because given enough time, anything feels normal. The specific weight of obligations you carry for long enough stops feeling like weight and starts feeling like gravity, just the force of the world. The question most people never ask at level 2 or level 3 is not whether they can afford the debt. They can. They are affording it. The question is whether they can afford what the debt is costing in the currency that does not appear on a statement, in the options not exercised, in the risks not taken, in the version of the work that was not chosen because the payments would not have waited, in the specific texture of a professional life organized not around what you want to build, but around what you are obligated to maintain. Debt is not a number on a statement. It is a claim on your future. Every payment you make is either buying back that future or renting it out for another month.